All right, we've talked about the fact that we own real property. We deal with real property. We call it real estate, or we call it land, or we call it houses, but we deal with real property. The only other type of property that we're going to talk about in this is called personal property. As far as we're concerned in this class, there are only two things, real property and personal property. We're not going to get into any like intellectual property, like windows or thoughts or things like that. So if it's not real, it's personal for us. That's all we really care about. In the personal world, we deal with this thing called, they use the word chattel. C-H-A-T-T-E-L, chattel. It's a very common term for attorneys to use. Sometimes they call it personalty. Never seen it called personalty. It's called chattel. Very common term if you're dealing in the commercial world where you're buying something and you want all the chattel that comes with it, which means all the personal property. So if I'm buying an office space, I may want all the desks that come with it or the dumpster. That would be a personal property. So you might ask in your purchase agreement, I'm going to buy the property at so-and-so and all the associated chattel. That means personal property. Okay? They talk a little bit about factory-built housing. Once again, who cares? I don't. Tess doesn't. That's an important thing. Now, here's the key. There are some things that cross over. The hardest one that we're going to deal with is plants. A plant. There are two types of plants, two generic, and they fit in either one or the other. The first type of plant is called the fructus naturalis. Got that? That's Latin or Greek, which is always a pain in the butt for non-English speaking people as their main language. They got to learn English, then they come in here, and now we're talking Latin and French and all this other crap. It's trouble for most of us. Fructus naturalis, the naturally occurring trees and plants. They are treated as part of real property. Remember back here when I told you land was the physical dirt and earth and all the naturally occurring stuff? It is encompassed in real property. So when I make an offer to buy the house at 12 Smith Street, I don't have to say, and the big oak tree out back, and the pine tree, because those are fructus naturalis. Those are naturally occurring plants on that property. They are real property. They come with my offer of the real property. The second one is called fructus industrialis, the industrial fruits. These are things that are grown and planted for crops, corn, oats, soybeans, tobacco, whatever. They are treated like real property, meaning they are not included in my offer. So when a farmer sells his farm and the back 40 has corn planted on it, the corn that's going to grow is his corn. He has the right to come back and collect his corn, because just like the microwave and the couch and the pool table, the corn is his property. It's an industrial fruit. He's planted it and it becomes personal property. The hay, things. They are often called implements. Implements is the term you see on the purchase agreement. EMBL mint. I don't know how to spell. All right? They are personal property, treated just like that. So, let me ask you a question. What about a vineyard? Personal property or real property? What about an apple orchard, pumpkin patch, Christmas tree farm? Are those real property or personal property? We got a very definite real. Who said personal? Two of you. 2 to 1. You guys must be right, right? The one who said it said no. Don't necessarily be. So the key here is, first of all, hopefully you guys would be smart enough to negotiate this as part of the deal. Hey, we need to talk about this. But typically anything like that is real property that comes with the property because they're buying the vineyard. You don't want the old owner coming back every harvest year and going, hey, I'm here to harvest my grapes, because that's what I bought was the vineyard, or I bought the tree farm, or I bought the orange grove, oranges in its first place. So 99.9% of the time real property that would go with the house. That's another key, is they're often not replanted. I mean, Christmas tree, you can plant more, but typically an orange tree, you plant it once, you harvest it many times. Corn, you plant once, harvest it once, it's done. All right? So you can't just say things that are planted are real and things that aren't, because there are some of those things that get in the middle there that will confuse you, and that's like these. But typically when someone goes to buy a vineyard, they're buying Martha's vineyard, so we're buying the whole intent of getting the grapes and making our own wine, so it would be real property, all right? But if it, when in doubt, you guys could always go, and you do understand that, you know, the 37 orange groves, oranges will stay with us. Now, we can convert from real to personal and personal to real. Matter of fact, this is what you guys have probably done. If anybody's ever bought and sold a house before, you've probably done this and didn't even know it. I can take personal property. If I go to Lowe's and buy a bunch of wood, and Lowe's comes to my house and drops it on the driveway, that wood sitting in the driveway, personal or real? It's personal, my personal property. But I take that wood and I go around back and I build a deck and sink it in the ground and put a band board on it to build a deck for my party at my house. What is it now? It's now real. I can convert from personal to real through annexation. All right? Annex. You guys know what annex means? To bring in. There's a lot of cities are always arguing over. They want to annex, who was it? Lawrence wanted to annex Geist. Didn't Center Grove, or Greenwood want to annex Center Grove just recently? Annex means to bring in. So I can take personal property and convert it to real by annexing it. I can buy a bunch of rocks and gravel and sand, it's personal property. If I mix it up with cement and make a sidewalk out of it, it's now real property. I annexed that personal property into real property. I can vice versa go from real to personal. The apple tree out back is real property. I walk over and I sever the apple off of it. That apple in my hand is now personal property. So I can sever, or severance, real property into personal. All right? This is literally what we do when we negotiate purchase agreements. Anybody ever bought or sold a house and asked for like the washer and dryer? Yeah, that's what so what you're doing, washer and dryer is typically personal property. The new buyer coming in makes an offer on the house, but wants the washer and dryer to stay. They are annexing it into the real property. I'm going to offer you $1.8 million, but I want the washer and dryer to stay. So I'm annexing that washer and dryer. One of my very first listings in Speedway, the lady had an award-winning rose bush on the southeast corner of her house. And before she even started talking about kids, she said, rose bush goes with me. All right? Hey, how old are your kids? Screw them, rose bush goes with me. All right? Rose bush would typically be real property, right? But we had to sever it by making it personal. We did that when I listed the house. I put rose bush on southeast corner will go with seller. Yeah, hey.
I did it with ginkgo trees at my house.
Yeah.
That's what said the lady wanted her rose bush in the house I bought.
Well, you didn't buy a house in Speedway, did you?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't even think rose bushes could grow with that kind of a rose bush. But she literally came in with a big machine, then scooped it out, put fill dirt back in it, sodded the land and everything. But what we did was sever some real property into personal property so she could take it with her. It's crazy. Yeah.
It makes you feel a little crazy, but it's worth it.
Well, that's because you are a little crazy. It's a tree. Buy another one. That's what I told her. If you're so good at growing roses, grow another bush. No. Remember, we sell real estate with a mortgage. We sell personal property with a bill of sale. Hint, hint. We sell real property with a mortgage. We sell personal property with a bill of sale. When you go and buy a bicycle at Walmart and they give you that receipt, that's a bill of sale. That's how you convey ownership of personal property, through a bill of sale. All right? We had to, several years ago, do a deal where they left a bunch of stuff, and we actually had to execute a bill of sale separately for the pool table and the washer and dryer and the swing set or something like that.
Because it wasn't in the...
Because whole weird reason, we'll get into it. If the amount of personal property value becomes too huge compared to the value of the real estate, some lenders will balk and go, wait a minute, I can't do that. I mean, good example was I had a house we sold over there at Brookville Road, and yeah, over there. The house was like 80 grand, and he left his big International Harvester 72-inch tractor and said, hey, I'll just give this to you to mow the land. Well, we put it in the purchase agreement, and the lender came to us and said, hey, can't do that. I mean, you're buying an $80,000 house. That's a $7,000 or $8,000 tractor. That's 10% of the value of the home. So we had to execute a bill of sale separately so the mortgage could cover the house, and we did the bill of sale differently. All right, so bill of sale is for real property. Misspoke. I misspoke. I was just checking to see if you're awake. You passed. One of you. Bill of sale is for personal property. Real property uses a mortgage. Now comes the fun part. Because we can get into things that look like both. Looks like it's personal, maybe real. It's called a fixture. You guys ever heard of a light fixture? I wonder where the term comes from? Here it is. A fixture is something that looks personal, but is affixed in such a manner that it actually becomes real and goes with the property. Ceiling fans. Ceiling fans are affixed. They're bolted on, they're wired in, they're attached. So even though you went to Walmart and bought it yourself, when you attached it to the property, you made it real.
Did you see that movie, Moving, Richard Pryor? They're buying the house and...
Yeah, but it's been so...
It's been years since I...
Yeah. I remember the one called Pacific Heights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buddy of mine actually owns the rights to that movie. He sells those landlord He goes to all the meetings around the country and sells landlord kits on how to be a landlord, and he gives that movie as what not to do and learn. And I told him, so that movie only had been about 30 minutes with me, because I'd have killed that guy about halfway through there. Michael Keaton, I'd have killed Michael Keaton halfway through that.
What about like curtain rods?
Curtain rods is another example. Could be real, could be personal. All right? How are the curtain rods affixed? Are they a special curtain rod, or are they generic curtain rods?
Like awnings,
Awnings,
blinds.
mini blinds. These are all fixtures that you don't necessarily have to ask for because it is bolted in. Okay? What? There are some legal tests, and we'll talk about them. How's it? Ceiling fans. There's a house on Geist where the whole back end of the house is glass, and they got those remote curtains where it slides the whole curtain over the whole 2 stories. That would be real, because those were custom to build, designed for that. My new house is the living room's 2 stories, and we got the windows with that pull across like that. They came with the house because it has a remote and all that. If it's just a generic window, the curtains may be personal, but the rod may be real. Rod and reel? Rod may be real. There are actually one of the best ways to determine it. Let me ask you a question. Microwave. Microwave, personal or real? Everybody at one time. What is it?
Doesn't it depend if it's over the stove or attached to the wall?
Well, certainly it does. That's why I'm asking the question.
So that's real.
If it's the kind that sits on the counter, it could be personal. If it's attached above your stove in such a manner that it needs a screwdriver or it could be real. So one of the tests to determine if it's personal or real is how movable is it? Refrigerator, personal or real? You guys ever seen the Sub-Zero cabinet system? In any of the high-end homes where the refrigerator looks like one of the cabinet doors and you got to know which one it is, and it's like a secret passage? Where if you take it out, in that particular case, you're going to notice it missing. So one of them is, how is it used in a system? If it's used in a system where it's obviously missing, it might be real. If it's your refrigerator out in the garage, it's got your beer in it that you can just roll up into the back, that could be personal. So the second test is, how is it used? Is it used in a system where it would obviously be missing if someone took it? Right? So you got the movable test, you've got the system test. There's a couple others in the book they talk about. Typically you don't use those. Those are the big 2. The third one is the best one if there's ever a question. What do you guys agree on? Because you guys can agree on anything if you both agree. I could walk into a house and go, that's the ugliest ceiling fan I've ever seen in my life. And the seller says, that's the one my grandmama gave me, I'm taking it with me. Great, I want it gone. So it doesn't matter that it's attached, we both agree it's leaving, then it's personal. Same thing like I said, pool table. I ain't moving that up the stairs. Well, I'd like to have that. Okay, we're going to agree that that's real. So while movable is a good choice, and how's it fixed is a good choice, agreement is the best choice. All right? An agreement is the best choice.